Good morning everyone and welcome to our remote meeting of the Statutory Licensing Subcommittee. I'm Councillor Linda Marshall, Chair of the Subcommittee. I'm joined today by Councillors Pauline Craythorne, Amanda Hopgood, Joyce Maitland and Colin Carr. Please note this meeting is being recorded live to the Council's website and will be available to be viewed for a minimum of 6 months. I would like to give a warm welcome to any members of the public or media who are watching this live feed of the meeting. Before I commence with the formal business on the agenda, I would like to cover some of the housekeeping issues for us all to follow in order for the meeting to run as efficiently as possible. Please do bear with us because this is new to us all. For those participating in the meeting, if you could please only speak when invited to speak to by myself as chair. Keep your microphone on mute at all times unless invited to speak. Members, if you wish to speak, please use the raise hand function. That will indicate to me that you do wish to speak. Once invited to speak, please introduce yourself with your name and position unless you've already introduced yourself earlier in the meeting. If I lose my connection, please note that Councillor Maitland will take over in my absence until connection is restored. And now moving on to the agenda, so item 1. Jill, is there any apologies for absence?
There are no apologies for absence, Chair.
Substitutes?
There are no substitute members, Chair.
Any members have any declarations of interest? We'll now move on to the minutes of the meetings held on the 17th of December 2019, 21st of January 2020, 24th of January 2020 and the 20th of February 2020. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the minutes, please?
Yes, Councillor Pauline Craythorne. I'll move the minutes are correct.
And Chair, Councillor Amanda Hopgood, I'll second the minutes.
Thank you. Move on to item 5. It's an application for the review of a premises licence in respect of News and Booze, 1 Catherine Terrace, New Kyle, Stanley. All 5 members will sit during the hearing today, but only 3 will make the decision. The councillors who will make the decision with me are Councillors Hopgood and Carr. The parties to the hearing are Mrs Nicola Anderson on behalf of Durham County Council's Licensing Authority, who are the applicants, Mr Graham Blount, Senior Trading Standards Officer, Responsible Authority, Licensing Team Leader Helen Johnson, and the legal advisor to the subcommittee this morning is Sarah Grigger. I understand that the premises licence holder is not in attendance. So Sarah, could you please advise the committee, please?
Thank you, Chair. We have received a letter in the last few days from a treating consultant haematologist who has confirmed that the licence holder is suffering from acute leukemia and has required that he has spent the last 3 months in hospital. He is undergoing frequent visits to the day unit and has further hospital admissions. As such, it is very difficult for him to commit to any appointment and he is shielding from a coronavirus perspective. The consultant haematologist asks that you take this into consideration when reviewing the alcohol licence. In addition, I've heard from the licence holder's solicitor, Matt Foster from Mincoffs, and he has requested an adjournment on the basis of this medical evidence. So the matter must go to you to decide on those issues. I believe that Nicola Anderson from the licensing department has an issue with that evidence and she would like to put her view across to you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Sarah. Nicola, do you want to talk to the committee?
Thanks, Chair. Sorry. I'm Nicola Anderson from Licence and Enforcement. Thank you, Chair. If I can just give a little background information. The premises were reviewed in April 2019 for non-compliance of licensing conditions and immigration issues. Following that review, on appeal it was agreed that the licence should be transferred to Mr Ifsal Mehdi, a relative who has a shop in Wheatley Hill. It was agreed that the premises would voluntarily close for 6 weeks, while Mr Mehdi assisted Anissa Shadab to get the premises in order and ensure that when the premises reopened, they were compliant with the additional licensing conditions that were put forward on appeal by Anissa Shadab and Ifsal Mehdi. The appeal to hearing was dated the 6th of November 2020 and the premises weren't inspected until the 31st of January 2020, which were 12 weeks after the hearing. When visiting the shop to carry out the inspections in 2020, staff have always contacted Anissa Shadab to come to the premises to deal with the inspection. Anissa has the day-to-day running of the premises, and in fact, from previous dealings with the premises, she's indicated that the premises was gifted to her by her father. As stated in the review papers, there's still ongoing prosecution against Anissa Shadab, who sold alcohol in July 2019 outside of the licensing hours. The papers for this review were served on the licence holder on the 9th of March 2020. Anissa would also have been aware of the review due to the fact that the blue notice had to be displayed on the premises advising of the review. The consultation period ended on the 9th of April. No representations have been received from Mr Mady or Anissa Shadab. Mr Mady was served with a notice on the 14th of April 2020 advising him that the hearing would be delayed. Mr Mady was advised on the 5th of June of the new hearing date, but not until the 22nd of June does it appear that a solicitor was appointed with a hearing date already listed for the 25th of June 2020. The solicitor representing did represent in the previous review hearing. Mr Mady, through his solicitors, has indicated that the premises are to be sold. However, back in January 2019, council officers were advised then that the licence holder at the time, who was the husband of Anissa Shadab, said that he expected to vacate the premises early in the new year, i.e. 2020, re-establishing the business in a neighbouring property. There is no indication that the premise is for sale or that there's any ongoing matter to put the premises for sale. As a responsible authority, licensing would wish to hear the hearing to go ahead, given the number of issues with the premises and the long delays already incurred. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nicola. Helen, before I bring Graham in, do you want something to say? Got your hand up? You're on mute, Helen.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, just to follow on from Mrs Anderson there, just to confirm that the hearing for this application should have been held by the 6th of May 2020. So just for members' information to take that into account as well.
Thank you. Graham Blount, do you want to say anything?
Only to echo what Mrs Anderson said. I think the licence holders had plenty of opportunity to put things in hand, and to leave it 2 days before the hearing, I think, even with his ongoing medical conditions, I don't think is satisfactory.
Okay, thank you for those comments. The meeting will now be suspended while Councillors Hopgood and Maitland retire with me to decide whether to adjourn the meeting or to proceed in the licence holder's absence. Can you all mute? Make sure that your microphones are on mute, please. Welcome back, everybody. We've done our deliberation and we've decided to go ahead with today's subcommittee meeting and to hear the case. So I'm going to ask our legal officer, Sarah Gregor, to run through the procedure, please.
Thank you, Chair. We'll hear from the licensing officer, who will have a chance to outline why we have this matter before the subcommittee. We can then ask questions of that officer. Then we will hear representations from the licence holder and his solicitor, who will have a chance to explain the position. Obviously, we know that both parties will not be present today, but representations will be made. All parties will have a chance to summarise their position. After that, the subcommittee will retire to deliberate their decision, and all parties will be notified by telephone later today of the decision. That will be followed by a formal written decision notice outlining the decisions and the reasons for the decision. I hope that all of this is clear. Does anyone have any questions before we hear from the licensing officer?
Any questions? I've got no hands up, Sarah, so thank you very much for that. Sorry. Helen Johnson, licensing officer, can we have your report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. So this is a review of a premises licence for News and Booze. Oh, bear with us, I've just lost my page there. Where's it gone? There. So the subcommittee is asked to consider and determine an application by Durham County Council's licensing authority to review the premises licence in respect of News and Booze at 1 Catherine Terrace, New Cayo, Stanley, County Durham. The premises licence holder in the DPS is a Mr. Ifzal Mahidi. The premises currently hold a premises licence for sale of alcohol for consumption off the premises Monday to Saturday, 8 AM until 11 PM, and on a Sunday, 12 PM to 10:30 PM. You'll see the premises licence, which is attached as Appendix 3, pages 38 to 44 of the report. A plan showing the location of the premises is attached as Appendix 2, page 36. Just to outline that, the delay in regards to the current COVID-19 crisis, so we did have to extend the time limit for hearing this application under Regulation 11 of the Licensing Act 2003, Regulations 2005. We received the application on the 9th of March 2020. The consultation ended on the 6th of April 2020. You'll see that application attached at pages 46 to 57. During the consultation period, we received one representation in support of the review. This was from Durham County Council's Local Weights and Measures Authority as a responsible authority. That's attached as page 59. We did receive responses from Durham County Council's Environmental Health Department and the Durham Safeguarding Children Partnerships, and that's at pages 61 to 62. And the Fire Authority responded to the consultation with no comments. That's at page 64. Recommendations. The subcommittee is asked to determine the review application with a view to promoting the licensing objectives. The subcommittee is recommended to give appropriate weight to the steps that are appropriate to promote the licensing objectives. The representations, including any support and information presented by all parties, which is contained in the report and also today. Durham County Council Statement of Licensing Policy. The relevant parts are attached as Appendix 8, which is pages 66 to 73. And also the guidance issued to local authorities under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003. The relevant parts are attached as Appendix 9, 75, pages 75 to 86. So the options today, members, is for A, to take no further action in regards to the licence. You can modify or add conditions to the licence. You can exclude a licensable activity from the licence, remove the designated premises supervisor. You can suspend the licence for a period not exceeding 3 months, or you can revoke the licence. Thank you, Chair, and I'll take any questions.
Chair, you're on mute.
Sorry, is there any questions from Nicola Anderson?
Oh, no, Chair.
Okay, Graham Blount, have you any questions on the report?
No, I haven't, Chair.
Okay, I have Councillor Colin Carr to ask a question from the members.
Thank you, Chair. The person who is currently DPS, is that the person who was in temporary charge, which we're going to hear about later? And there is an indication in the report that he doesn't regularly attend. Can that be brought out in the report that is coming from Nicola, or do you need to give us that information now? Thank you.
If I can answer that question, Chair.
Yes, please. Colin, can you put your hand down, please? Thank you.
Just to answer the councillor's question there, Mr. Isfal Mahidi is the current licence holder and the designated premises supervisor. So he is both, which obviously you've heard previously in regards to his current situation. Mrs. Anderson may go through further details in regards to that, but I'll let her give her report, Chair.
Okay, thank you. No more questions from members. We'll move on to the legal advisor, Sarah.
I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you for that. So we'll have the applicant's representations from Nicola Anderson, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, as outlined before, the premises licence was reviewed and additional conditions were added to the licence following an appeal hearing in November 2019. At that time, it was determined that the licence should be transferred into the name of Ifzal Mahdi, both as licence holder and designated premises supervisor, and it was agreed that he would oversee the running of the shop so that Anissa could be compliant with the licence conditions, but Anissa would have the day-to-day running of the shop. So on the 31st of January 2020, myself and Mr. Blount arrived at the shop to carry out an inspection. Initially, on going into the shop, the staff phoned for Anissa to attend the shop to assist with the inspection, and they referred to her as the boss. So the first thing that we came across was that the previous licence summary was still on display, along with authorisations by the former licence holder and DPS, which was Shadab Azam, who is Anissa's husband. When it was identified, when Anissa attended and it was identified to her that the new licence wasn't on the premises, Anissa said she would go home and get it. She said she chased her solicitors to send the licence out, and it just arrived that day. Bearing in mind it was 12 weeks after the initial hearing, and the licence had been sent out pretty much after the hearing. So it was unclear as to why the licence holder hadn't been sent the licence, and the licence had gone direct to Anissa's home address from the solicitors, indicating that Anissa is in charge to all intents and purposes of the premises. So that started to raise issues as to whether the licence holder or DPS has any control over the premises on a day-to-day basis. And Anissa said that he did attend the premises 2 to 3 times a week when she was asked about that. So started to go through the conditions on the licence, and we looked at the weekly log for the CCTV. Now, the weekly log was basically a refusals register, and Anissa seemed to have no idea as to what the CCTV log was supposed to record, and all that when she was asked about the refusals, what she said was, if you look at the CCTV, you'll see that we've made these refusals. So she didn't understand what that was, which indicated then that the system hadn't been checked on a weekly basis as required by the condition. The incident book, that wasn't completed. Now, Anissa indicated during the inspection that she kept some training records at home, and they had, because there'd been a break-in at the premises in the January of 2020. However, that wasn't recorded in the incident log, and when Anissa was questioned regarding that, she said it had slipped her mind. The training records were incomplete. There's a licence condition asking that the training records are kept. There was no record of any training on proxy sales or selling to intoxicated people. And there was a training certificate dated the 10th of April 2019 for Anissa, but it wasn't signed by her, and other records weren't signed by the DPS or the licence holder, which is what the condition states. There was the right to work documentation was incomplete. There was a condition put in because of previous immigration issues. There was no copy documentation for one of the members of staff that was there. It was merely a typed sheet with her name and national insurance number typed on. And when Anissa was questioned, she stated that the member of staff didn't have a national insurance number, a national insurance card or a passport. And again, there was no right to work documentation for Anissa Shadab, who was effectively working in the shop. There was no fire risk assessment, and there were no signs and posters displayed, which is again one of the licensing conditions. We checked the electronic point of sale, and we checked a number of bottles that didn't always bring up a prompt about the age-related sales. So it works for some bottles, but not all of them. And the condition says it has to work for all age-related products. So for cigarettes, scratch cards, it didn't work at all. The manual refusals register wasn't signed by a member of staff or signed off by the DPS or the licence holder on a monthly basis. Again, in compliance with the licensing condition. So we left the premises having made Anissa aware of all the findings, and a letter was then sent to her with those findings on. And a revisit to the premises took place on the 17th. Sorry, I also sent a letter to Ifsal Mehdi because he's the licence holder on the licence, to advise them of the inspection and the problems that we'd found. So we then revisited the premises on the 17th of February. Anissa was phoned by the staff in the shop to advise that we were there, but she said she was with her child at the hospital and so couldn't attend. When we checked the licence, despite me advising Anissa on the last inspection of what needed to be displayed, the licence was still being displayed incorrectly. The CCTV was displaying the wrong time. The time was reading 16:20 at 16:03. The CCTV log had been signed on the 5th of February and the 10th of February, but no mention was made that the time was incorrect. The incident book was produced, but there were no entries. However, we did find a form in a separate file, which did log an incident, but staff were completely unaware of the incident login procedure. Training had been undertaken on the 5th of February 2020 by staff, but no training record could be found for one of the members of staff who we were advised did attend the training. The right to work documentation had still not been updated. The fire risk assessment had been carried out and was in the training file. There was a poster at the back of the till saying that alcohol would not be sold if somebody appeared drunk, However, there was still no mention of selling to people who appeared to be intoxicated under the influence of drugs. The EPOS system, the electronic point of sale system, was still not working for all alcohol products and for all age-related products. The refusals register was being used more frequently, but it's not signed off monthly by the DPS stroke licence holder, but it's signed off by Anissa Shadab. So when we asked staff members that were present how often Ifzal came to the shop, the member of staff actually asked her who Ifzal was, bearing in mind that Anissa had told us that he attended 2 to 3 times a week. Anissa said that he comes to the shop on a Saturday and Sunday and sometimes on a Tuesday or Wednesday. Although when we'd visited that first Friday, she said he was due to call that day. And just to finish, Chair, Trading Standards carried out a test purchase on the 27th of February. This refusal, when it was checked, wasn't logged in the refusals register. There are concerns about these premises and the way that they're being run. Bearing in mind they have already been through a review process. They were appealed that decision and were granted the licence with additional conditions. However, they don't appear to be compliant with those conditions, and there appears to be a great lack of understanding about the conditions and about the licence. And as such, as a licensing authority, we have grave concerns about the management of these premises. That's my report, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Graham, have you any questions on the report?
No questions. I do have a few other items I'd like to add, though, if there's an opportunity.
Perhaps at the end, Sarah, would that be okay?
Yes, that's fine. I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. So members, I have Colin.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, can I ask that Nicola, has Anissa been advised to apply for a DPS for herself, or has she been advised to take any training to assist her in running the store? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Nicola, do you want to answer that one? Then we'll bring Joyce in.
Chair, Councillor Carr, Anissa does hold a personal licence. However, there is an ongoing prosecution currently taking place against both Shadab Azam and Anissa for sale of alcohol outside the licensing hours in July 2019.
Okay, thank you, Joyce.
Can I ask, when you said when you first visited the premises, if someone working what had no passport or any to say they could work, when you revisited, was that member of staff still working there?
Sorry. Councillor Maitland, it was in the previous, that was part of the previous review when there was a person found by immigration officers there who had no right to work, and that was brought about at the first review. The second time we went, the member of staff where the immigration, where there was no national insurance number or passport, they still haven't produced that. However, we do believe that she probably does have a right to work in the shop. But again, there's no paperwork to advise of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. No more questions from members? Okay, Graham, do you want to address the committee now, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, just a couple of extra bits. While Nicola was going through a lot of the bits and pieces in the original January visit, I'd gone through the policy documents that had been provided. there were quite a few errors in the policies, which obviously isn't the fault of the licence holder. It's probably the fault of the people who provided the policies. But obviously, I suspect that neither the licence holder nor Anisha had actually read the policies, because they would have probably picked them up. I mean, one of them was the police reference was to Cleveland Constabulary rather than Durham Constabulary. So it's obviously a cut and shut policy, but that hadn't been picked up. So I suspect possibly that, you know, the licence holder nor any other of the day-to-day management of the premises had actually read the policies. They've just ticked the boxes that have been told to be they've been told to pick. There were things like the policy didn't include electronic cigarettes. Well, you know, they've been an age-restricted product well over 18 months now, so that really should have been picked up when the policy was put in place after the last review. The photo ID scheme was out of date. Again, that's something that's been in place nearly 2 years, and again should have probably been picked up. Some of the policies hadn't been signed by the current premise license holder, the new one. Just the whole policy, the lack of the posters being put up, the lack of following anything that they've been requested, despite it being laid out on a plate to them, really gives me grave concerns that actually they're just following their own path, so to speak, and just not paying attention to what is being required. Now, you know, the fact that we carried out a test purchase and there was nothing put in the register at all. In fact, around the underage sales test purchase, there were no entries in the register a week either side. So, you know, if they are refusing, they're not recording it, which again just goes to show that even though the staff are allegedly being trained every week or reminded every week, they're not following it. So as a consequence, I really do have grave concerns that despite the fact that they've been through the review process once before, literally less than 6 months down the line, they've gone back to exactly what they were doing before the previous review. So I really don't know what to suggest towards this committee that would sort the problem out. It just seems to be a recurring problem.
Okay, thank you for that report, Graham. Nicola, have you any questions on the report?
No, Chair.
Okay, any members, any questions on the report? Colin?
Thank you, Chair. Graham, you said that someone was giving them training. Do we know who that person was that was giving the training? And was this made aware to, I think it was Minkoffs was their solicitor at the time of the original review and following the review? Has Minkoffs been involved with you, or sorry, Nicola as well, regarding this review?
No, I've certainly had no contact. I know TJR Consulting did the original policies. The training record suggested that Mr. Robson had done the initial training, but all the other training had been done from that point onwards. Certainly the ones shown in the record had all been carried out by Anisha, which again backs up what Nicola was saying, that Anisha's running the premises as opposed to the premise license holder who's down.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, have you any questions?
I have no further questions.
Thank you. So we've got licence officer. Have you anything to add in finishing?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was just to confirm when Nicola was given her report in regards to when the premises licence, it wasn't on display and she hadn't received it, etc. Just to confirm that it was sent out on the 7th of November 2019. I believe Nicola did her first inspection in into January 2020, and that was sent to Minkoff solicitors because they were liaising at the time. They were the correspondence address, so it was just to confirm that, Chair.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Nicola, do you want anything to add?
Chair, no, thank you.
Okay, and trading standards, Graham, would you like anything to add?
No, there's nothing further that I want to add, Chair. Thank you.
Does our legal advisor want to address us at all?
I've got nothing further to add, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So now Councillors Hopgood and Carr will retire with me to consider the representations made. All parties will be notified of the decision by the licensing officer later today. I've not been informed of any other business, so it concludes the business. Before the broadcast ends, I would like to thank those members of the public media who have watched this meeting. If you wish to find out the decision, please email licensing@down.gov.uk. The address can also be found on the meetings page on our website. Thank you.